All right, it's 9:01. Should we start this?
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
All right. Why don't we let's do a quick introduction. I see some people in here I know, so there's some people I don't know. Let's maybe tell people who we are and where we're from and what we do.
Exactly. First of all, welcome to the Tech Talk series, a new format from me and Jeff. So let's go to the presenters.
Well
so
done.
I think we have to start with Jeff because you are the principal.
Yeah, whatever principal means. What principal means, that's another English word for old. My name is Jeff Kahlberg, technology evangelist with IGEL. I tell people being a technology evangelist, you get that title because you like to hear yourself talk. But anyway, I've been around the IGEL product and since fourth quarter 2001. So I'm in my 20th year of working with IGEL as a partner, consultant, and now employee for the last almost going on 7 years. So my job is to work on alliances and tell the story of IGEL.
Cool.
Fredrik?
Yeah, and I'm Fredrik Brattstig. I'm based in Sweden. I'm also a tech evangelist, technology evangelist at IGEL. I've been into the company since, working on the 7th year. So we actually got hired by IGEL Technology GmbH about the same time.
Right. Oh, by the way, I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States, and you're in?
Yeah, I'm in Vänersborg, a small city in Sweden, in the northern part of Europe.
So, well, one of the things, so we're going to do this every couple of weeks. We've sent out a series of invites. What we're intending to do is to talk. Fredrik and I are just going to chat for 10 minutes. There's no serious format to this, and just talk about the end computing RX 420 device running IGEL OS. And then we'll open it up for some questions. I don't think we're muting anybody, but if you have questions, maybe you can pop them in the Q&A or the chat, and then we'll make sure to come back to them. So why don't we talk about it? So we are talking about the end computing RX 420 today, which is a new product. It's from, well, a new product together. The hardware's been there for a while from end computing, and IGEL OS, of course, has been there for a while. So this is the first time we've kind of come here together. As many of you know, the RX 420 is built on the Raspberry Pi platform, and which of course is based on ARM. Fredrik, you remember IGEL actually has, this isn't IGEL's first ARM rodeo, so to speak.
It isn't, but hold on a minute. Currently, I think I'm sharing.
Yes, you are.
So let's explain what I'm sharing.
Yeah.
Because in the invite we had the crazy Swedish word kräftskiva, and this is what we are doing, and that's actually the format of this webinar. It's a kind of friendly discussion round where we in Sweden do this with a lot of beer and wine and kräftor, which you see in the picture, and it's always a fun thing to do. We have the kräftskiva premiere in August, mid of August, about my birthday actually. So every year we do this. I actually seen pictures from the US where they do kräftskiva too.
Right. Of course, we don't call it that. We call it, crawfish or crayfish.
Yeah.
Exactly. So little tiny lobsters, more or less, that grow in fresh water and in the mud.
Anyways, that's a format friendly, just me and Jeff talking, and anybody to jump in if they want to.
Yeah, exactly.
And now to exactly what Jeff started to talk about, the RX 420.
Correct. So as you mentioned, this is based on the Raspberry Pi 4, which has been an interesting platform over the years. But I had mentioned that now we've worked on moving IGEL OS to run on this platform. It is ARM based, but it wasn't the first time we did ARM. I think it was just about the time you started with IGEL.
Exactly. We had a few of those still in stock when I started.
Yeah, so that was what the IGEL 01 or the IZ1, which was I think it was a TI Cortex or something. And it was interesting because I think from a business perspective, using ARM on the desktop was a challenge, and it's been a challenge over the years because of lack of support for different kinds of protocols or VPN clients or whatever people would need. There were bits and pieces, as I recall. But one of the questions we could ask now is the Raspberry Pi actually enterprise ready, and why was the Raspberry Pi 3 or maybe the Raspberry Pi 2 not something that we saw, and what makes the Raspberry Pi 4 different and the new RX 420 different?
I would say that this format, when it's packaged by N Computing, in terms of the hardware unit, it's packaged in a very professional way. You have all the inputs and outputs that you basically need. I would say you have the dual screen outputs and so on. You have a lot of USB ports. You have the Wi-Fi. You have the Bluetooth piece. Everything is packaged, and the combination of the RX 420 and the RX 440 actually, which is the same type of platform.
The RX 440.
Yeah. So the RX 440 is the same device, but with 4 gigs of RAM instead of 2 gigs of RAM. I mean, you can actually buy this from N Computing and just put it out to your users, have them connect the cables, and have the UMS and the IGEL OS to do the rest.
Yeah. I think one of the key things is I look at the picture here, we got all those small little ports there on the left side, or the one's the power connector, but there's two, the two mini HDMI ports are important because this is really the first Raspberry Pi platform that supports dual monitor and dual display. For most people today, it's a requirement. I don't know too many people that don't have two displays, it seems. So this was an important addition that I think that makes the RX 420 and RX 440 viable solutions. So, but it is a Pi. I mean, we can look at it in a minute here. One of the when I look at this, one of the questions, didn't you have a video or something, or a picture or camera that was looking at this? I don't know how many people have actually and Richard Charlton's comment. Only downside is too many HDMI ports and no cables. Sometimes those are hard to find, right? Yep. Exactly. And so you got to make sure you got to go find the mini or almost micro HDMI cables for sure. So, didn't you have a picture where we opened this device up?
Yeah, sure. I will actually do it live. First of all, we have a question from the audience. RX 440 question mark, is it available? I think it's not available yet. It will be we'll have a look at if there is a requirement and for future needs. So it's basically the only difference is that it comes with 2 gigs of RAM, 4 gigs of RAM instead of 2 gigs of RAM. Yeah. Which makes sense because it's a 64-bit operating system. So, I mean, we can address more memory, so why not? So let's see where it goes. Anyways, I will try to share, switch my sharing actually, and see if I can share content from my camera.
There we go.
There we go. So here you actually see the RX 420 device. And it looks like this. You see my hands, quite big hands, but anyways, this is how the RX 420 looks. Basically, Yeah, smaller than a cigarette package, even if people shouldn't be smoking. Anyways, that's how it is. So you shouldn't open this up, because if you open this up and you break the hologram seal, then you break the hardware warranty. But anyways, to be able to look inside, we have to do this. So guys and ladies, do not do this at home. I have already unscrewed this, the screws that holds the chassis together. One underneath the hologram and one underneath one of the foots. So I will just open it up. And there we have the insides. I will continue dismounting this device.
I did have to give the people at End Computing credit in terms of, you know, putting together this interesting little case. We noticed that there's that little adapter board that kind of plugs into the GPIO pins.
Yeah, exactly.
And that connects that little silver button, power button, if you will. That's one of the things about that crazy platform. There really is nothing that tells you if the device is on or off. You know, that red light, the LED glows when power's in there. It doesn't tell you that the thing's running.
Exactly.
But we know that it's really challenging because this device doesn't have a BIOS. Mm-hmm. So which means there's no CMOS. So there's no way for this thing to keep track of time or store any kind of configuration or interrupt the boot process. So one of the things we can talk about, we'll talk about in our next get together, will be the IGEL S and how it behaves. But we use that button and special timings to impact the boot process and some other things. So
exactly,
that's interesting. But it is in fact a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, I mean,
so hey Frederick,
Raspberry board. Yeah.
So I could just go buy one, right, and build my own.
Potentially, yes. Is it supported?
Probably not.
Yeah.
In fact, I could tell you not. I mean, that was one of the things that we've learned as we started this journey together to build this new product, and that was the fact that not all Raspberry Pis are the same. The firmwares are different, and not the firmwares won't boot everything out there. So there's a lot that goes into putting together a supported solution, and that's the one thing that we do have here, and that's why we've kind of put this product together.
For reference, we could put a regular Raspberry Pi on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I see a direct difference between the end computing device and the regular Raspberry Pi. There is no heat sinks on the Raspberry Pi.
Yep, that's correct.
Which might be needed if you're going to use this device for 24/7 operations. And of course, there is no fan on the regular Raspberry Pi. You have a fan in the case on the RX 420, which might also be needed. I've been using the RX 420 and putting quite a lot of load on this device, and I never hear the fan. I believe it works, but I never.
The fan?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to listen. It's pretty quiet, so you have to listen very, very carefully. If it's really quiet in the room, you can hear it kick in on occasion. But yeah, and it's a good piece to have in there. And it really is, you got to be overdriving that processor and creating some heat for that to really kick in. You know, we're seeing some of the chat here about the 440 version, or the RX 440 or 442 is. It is going to be interesting. So one thing is, we said one of the comments that came in was it'll be here coming out this month. So it will be something that'll be orderable by the end of the month, it looks like. And we'll start to fill the channel. And the question comes up, I mean, we kind of felt the same way about memory, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna use it. I mean, right now, if all you're doing is connecting to Citrix, it's generally fine. But one day you'll get unified communications, and we'll talk a little bit about that in our next session, and then the session after we talk about Citrix. and how that works. But and if we run a browser locally, or we start to run not just Citrix, maybe we start to branch out and run no machine, or maybe one day VMware, or maybe Windows Virtual Desktop, whatever. One day things are going to come along. They're going to move over to this platform, and the memory will become important. So future proofing.
Yeah. So there was another question about the display outputs. What's the maximum resolution? And I would say it's dual 4K.
Yep.
We should have mentioned that, of course.
So you will have to buy new glasses, because the 4K on my 24-inch monitor is
that's crazy for me as 46 years of age. Then I certainly need my glasses. And but of course, if you want to have a dual 55-inch screens, then it's perfect.
Fantastic. So yeah, good point here, right? So Jack says, let's see here. As soon as the temperature exceeds 63 degrees centigrade or Celsius, we'll get the fan will turn on. So so I'll get my little thermometer out, and then we'll monitor it.
Yeah,
I'm going to trust them.
I'll put it together again. By the way, in the bottom of the beneath or under the main board, we actually have the storage device.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just for reference.
That that's one of the things that you bring that out. So what happens? I mean, we've all been around technology for quite a while, and sometimes things do go haywire.
Yeah.
If you're imaging a device or doing an update. I mean, IGEL, we do a lot we put a lot of resiliency in the firmware update process to prevent bad things from happening. But I've always said, if that one single moment when we're committing an update to storage, if in that single moment something goes wrong as we write to that disk, and I mean, we're talking that exact split second, it's potential that you could, brick the machine, so to speak. Although we have, as long as you get your main system partition down, we have other controls to recover from something like that. But if it ever becomes a situation where we have to, re-image that device, you'll need to pull that little memory card, just like anybody who's worked with a Raspberry Pi in terms of how you would image a device. You'd have to DD or cat that image onto that device. So,
I mean,
anyway, otherwise it's inaccessible. I remember somebody asked me once about being able to boot from USB. And I know there's some conversation amongst the community, not the IGEL community, but the Raspberry Pi community, about flashing the BIOS or flashing the firmware on a device to allow you to boot from USB. And then computing device, that's not possible, and from our perspective, that's actually a good thing. If you can't boot from USB, you can't really change that firmware without pulling that little flash out. So
yeah, and breaking the warranty. So
yeah, and breaking the warranty and support and everything else. So it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah. Going back to the 4 gig discussion also, and this actually brings us into the next piece of discussion about challenges with the existing platform. So what do you say, Jeff, in terms, if you compare the x86 based Linux ecosystem and the ARM based ecosystem, I would say that there is a lack of applications for the ARM piece that exist on the x86. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we look at. Well, let's just take unified communications right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can use. Well, actually, you can use the browser, Chromium browser that's included with IGEL OS on the end computing device, and you can be part of a conversation using the browser. But if you wanted to use, say, Teams offloading, okay, or if you wanted to use Zoom offloading, or if you wanted to use any of the communication solutions from Cisco, they're not available on the ARM device. So if they're not available for ARM, they're not going to be available in the end computing device. So, and this has always been the problem. If someone wants to work with VMware, you know, this isn't an option. If somebody wants to work with, you know, Windows Virtual Desktop and Microsoft, this is not an option. If today,
at least currently,
one day, yeah, one day it will be. One day it will change. You know,
and that's also one thing where the 4 GB version comes into play, because if you happen to find a software piece that you want to run on the ARM that isn't in the IGEL OS, there is a possibility to add custom partitions in the same way as you do custom partitions for x86 based IGEL devices. So you can run any type of software on those devices, of course, built for ARM. Using custom partitions, and then of course the more stuff you run on the local operating system, the more RAM you need.
Right.
So that's,
and of course, all ARMs are different. So right now, when we talk about, you know, supporting something on the Raspberry Pi versus a BeagleBoard or some other solution, it's going to be different. So this is what's, when we look at an enterprise solution, this is why it's important to focus on the end computing device. Because there's a level of enterprise support there, enterprise level support, which is necessary. So when companies come along like VMware and others with solutions that run on ARM, there's going to be a focus on something like a Raspberry Pi, which has a great following and an enterprise supported solution.
Yeah, that's cool. So we have a question from an anonymous attendee. That is deployment size, and that's the only thing that is mentioned. It might be good if you can extend this question a bit. Are you talking about the footprint of the operating system or something else?
Good question.
Otherwise, I mean, Jeff, in terms of the presentation piece, we are, as always, when you and me are talking, we are still over time. But I would like to know from you, Jeff, how do you look at the future for this platform? I mean, we have just released it. What do you think about the future?
I think it looks positive. I think, in my opinion, ARM has come a long way in terms of the business applications that we use. Okay, it's kind of moved. So the Raspberry Pi 4 platform with the dual display and the 4K support, 4K display support is huge. We didn't have that with Raspberry Pi 3. You know, you had a funky USB to display adapter solution, but that was inconsistent. Performance wasn't great. So I think we have a platform now that is actually viable.
Yeah.
And so I feel good about that. And I feel good, obviously, always feel good about IGEL OS and what we're doing, because now we've brought our management approach to this, and then the ability of all these really smart people that I've known for years now that work in the IGEL development side, doing some pretty good stuff with this platform. And I think, you know, our end computing friends have recognized the value in what IGEL and IGEL OS bring to the table for this platform. And I know that VMware, and I know that Microsoft, I know a lot of these other companies are now looking at and moving to support the ARM processor. So where in the past there was no future if you wanted to work with VMware, that's different. Today there is going to be a path, and that'll get worked into IGEL OS. So this platform, I see, does have a positive. The footprint's fantastic. I mean, you got to admit, you know, except for maybe sometimes we need more ports. You might have to have an external a USB hub, which, by the way, I have one that's a powered hub because, frankly, if you start plugging in USB devices into this device that actually draw power, you're gonna really, you could actually compromise. You won't compromise it, but it might not work properly.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same from my side. I mean, we have it's an IGEL ready product. We have an enterprise class operating system. We have a packaging of this device that is enterprise ready. And yeah, I think it's a very good platform. And what's interesting is to see what comes in the future in terms of different agent implementations and so on, like as you said, VMware, Windows Virtual Desktop, and so on.
Yeah.
So I think we should wrap it up. In the next session, you and me, Jeff, are going to talk about what's in the software on this device.
Right.
Basically, and talk about where we are and what we see in the horizon and so on. I see that there has been a discussion going on in the chat, not only the Q&A but also in the chat. But I think that a few of the end computing guys has been attending the chat and responding there. So I think there is no outstanding questions. We actually have Jochen on the call. If
Yep, I'm here.
something you want to say, then you are very welcome.
Yeah, perhaps I can just mention one little thing. It's essentially a repetition or go a bit more in depth on what Jeff already mentioned in terms of why there have been ARM devices before for thin clients that were not particularly successful. We had something different as well in the past, by the way, and why I think we all believe now that with our Raspberry Pi we have something that has legs to run on. And it's very simple. The reason that the past devices were not that successful was that they were all somewhat proprietary. And nobody likes to write software for proprietary platforms. If you want a Citrix receiver, VMware, WVD, whatever, you want to write for something that is not just for one company. And that's really why we embraced Raspberry Pi now about three years ago or something like that. And all our platforms are on Raspberry Pi because it is a standard. It's a standard for ARM. Actually, I think it's the only standard for ARM. So if you are convinced that ARM is a good device for thin clients, as we are, Raspberry Pi, in my mind, that's it. That's the only thing you will see future software being developed for. That's a key argument here in my mind.
Sounds good. Thank you. So, as said, I think the open questions are answered. And let's go back to the draw board, Jeff. It's not too much of drawing actually to be able to present those things, because we have been working with this platform since IGEL started the collaboration with End Computing on delivering those devices with IGEL OS. So we have quite some experience about those devices and the IGEL OS running on those. But I think we are about to close this and say see you in a few weeks.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in, everybody. Enjoyed sharing with you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.